Hey, what's going on, guys? How's everybody doing today? So Netflix just put out a movie called A Futile and Stupid Gesture, which I just up and assumed that it was going to be a futile and stupid movie mistake, mainly because it's January, and January is where failed experiments go to die. Or at least in the film world, that is. However, this time around, might have been wrong about that one. Basic plot of the movie, it's a true story based on a guy named Doug Kenny who started a magazine that you might have heard of called National Lampoon. And it's basically about the fact that Doug Kenny is kind of this unsung hero in comedy because him and his partner who started the magazine paved the way for a lot of comedians from that era to actually come up in show business. And I had no idea that any of this was even a thing. Like, I've heard of National Lampoon because of Vacation and the slew of other movies that have come out with that moniker on it. But I didn't know it was a magazine, and I didn't know that a lot of people from SNL back when it first started had a lot to do with this magazine. And that's the first positive that I have about the movie, is that this subject matter is like inherently interesting. And the movie is guilty of a lot of name dropping to the point where it's like a little bit excessive here and there. But I think they did that just to establish an air of relatability because there's a lot of celebrity names in here that you will recognize if you know anything about comedy. So if you're a fan of Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, John Belushi, or anybody from that era, then this is probably a movie that you'll be interested in. But I would have to say the only negative that I have with the movie is kind of the pacing and the tone, and it's like a little muddled here and there. Like, the movie starts at 100 miles an hour and then slowly kind of like slows down to like a fucking snail's pace. In more ways than one. Like, the comedic bits like started to lessen and lessen as the story went on. However, as tonally weird as that is, it did make sense for what the actual story was about because it continuously got to be a little bit more serious as this whole thing spiraled out of control. And like I said, they did a lot of name dropping just for the sake of name dropping, but I felt like there was a purpose, so it wasn't totally unwarranted. Subtle hints would have been better, but I was just kind of like, alright. Other than that, I really enjoyed the movie. Like, I was surprised. The cast is great. There's Will Forte, Donald Gleason, Thomas Lennon, Natasha Lyonne. There's a bunch of other comedic faces that you'll recognize immediately. You might not know exactly their names. And I swear to God, the comedy is like so subtly awesome that I laughed repeatedly throughout the movie. And particularly the shit between Donald Gleason and Will Forte because they play the two partners that are in charge of starting the magazine. The shit that exchanges between them is just fucking awesome. I did not know Donald Gleason could be that funny. Not every joke will hit, but the vast majority of them were pretty good. Like, their comedic chemistry was fucking dope. I have to say, Thomas Lennon's character was probably the best one though because he says the most lewd fucking terrible shit about random things that you'll ever hear. In other words, he's probably the biggest reason why this is not a kid's movie. I think at one point he talks about having literal anal sex with cancer. I don't know how much further you can take it than that. Other than that, the music was like, alright, it was nothing special, and there's nothing really super technically awesome about the movie, like as far as filmmaking goes. One other minor stroke of genius that I thought was that they used a page that would otherwise be like a page out of one of the National Lampoon magazines, and they used it to like illustrate the progression of a relationship, and I thought that was like oddly creative and awesome. So that was a thing. It is very Wolf of Wall Street-ish in that it's just like constantly stimulating you with like checkpoints in this guy's career, but this was a great mishmash of current comedians paying homage to OG comedians that were incredibly influential way back in the day. But it's also paying tribute to this guy who's kind of like this unsung hero that kind of revolutionized comedy in like the most low-key way possible. So based on everything I said, not a perfect movie, but I found it very interesting, so I'm gonna give it a 7.8 out of 10. Really funny, the comedic timing is great, Thomas Lennon is by far my favorite part of the movie, and it's kind of a cool little piece of history, and luckily we have this piece of art to kind of commemorate it, so there's that. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Have you heard of this movie? Do you want to see it? Hop in the comments. Let me know what's up. Other than that, if you like this review, give me a like, subscribe to all that other bullshit, and I will catch you guys later.